Hey, hello. So I'm having a tough um year. My month's been simple. Um I kind of convinced there's someone creating a induced chemical through a spectrum. Yeah, I wouldn't say just someone. It's a group, or I would say a government. But the thing is, I'm kind of convinced there's a spectrum being abused to undermine the invitation of a friendship of others. But the thing is, that's making it convinced there's sabotage to the communication system, the feeling of a frequency communicating to another frequency, the frequency of communication or exchange. Um, so yeah, I'm having a bit of concern. I haven't found marriage. I haven't really found right now. It seems it's normal to have interest to find something like that, and I'm having the feeling of a spectrum that's kind of feeling of blockage, or I kind of feel if groups can admit if it's my own father causing the feeling of cop blockage or even mental illness, the state of false. Because I kind of feel there's a group of corrupted police officers creating a cartel of their own, and feeling forming a resentment in large numbers, like massive numbers. So it's as if it doesn't benefit me. It definitely seems it was backfiring me, but if I had any inertia to any it the impression it seems to turn to I don't necessarily feel like someone's turning someone. I feel like there's sexual harassment when I'm getting the impression that there's a bit to the all police officers are actually involved in sexual harassment through use of a pirate spectrum, and or even Don Anderson. I feel like a level 4 prison should recite this name black man named Don Anderson. Knows my mother, and he goes to the gym, but doesn't necessarily take me realistic. It treats me like a child. The thing is, I kind of convinced he knows my father, and there is the feeling of resentment or communication, and even if there was any feeling of him in the community of Sacramento, the way um the abuse of a spectrum, or even if he has leadership in Sacramento, it's the feeling of defamation, but the feeling of there's partnerships or friendships or resenting Sheldon or new friends if I'm interested, but things I haven't even formed it yet. The thing is, that's where I'm trying to bring up the feeling of a bit over the limit harassment. It's a bit way over the top. This is this is not even a normal level. The feeling of a spectrum, electronic spectrum broadcasting, the feeling of resentment, or even to the feeling Well, this spectrum, it's at a new level to the point where it's like a live augmented technology, where the spectrum that can actually have a new wave surveillance zone and mass surveillance. The thing is, when you get the idea there's a pirate or say a spy simulator intruder, a misfit, overlapping impulse of groups, audience that is trying to listen to leadership of others, and so, or even it can go vice versa. Be if things are being are mirrored, if there's a mirroring effect in public devices, in private devices, but in the community to the point where there's a spectrum creating the feeling of crime against humanity to um, the feeling of to have population control of a mob structure. It's as if to have a button over mob structure to neural interface. And I'm kind of convinced there's ways to switch things. The thing is, there's a feeling when there's a bit intense harassment through a spectrum or like a radio spectrum, or the feeling of a television that has audio, that feeling of intruder that can pirate intruder can overlap it, that feeling of create an induced chemical or even the response of your own thought power. So the thing is, that's why I was interested in having a skill of mind, because if you're interested in having a skill of mind and then some intruder overlaps through a voice clone and then it causes an interruption through the response of your own mind, but because you're convinced that you're listening to someone that has leadership or someone that helping to gain skill. But the thing is, when you start to notice that there is a cyber threat and a cyber warfare issue of, so the thing is, it's a topic to actually to be open about and to be interested about gaining security, or maybe turning off spectrums for maybe 6 months or 3 months or maybe a year. Who knows? But the thing is, to have a mindset to recover, at least to convince that you know, yeah, yeah. So right now, it's not normal to. I almost feel like my mind can give out. So it's that's when I'm getting to the point where it's a bit intense, and so a feeling of a spectrum or a pirate spectrum can cause a feeling of agitation, or a cause what East Coast to West Coast or all across America, and that can cause a spike in violence. It's a big issue. It's a feeling of a communication. Um, that's what I was trying. It kept on bringing up communications because the feeling of some are trying to have control of a mob, and they're making an excuse to not do anything. But the thing is, there's still a crime because there's a mob order, because they're trying to have control of a mob. So it's as if that's the big one. That's the big. It's as if they're trying to not, but then they're trying to have control of a mob because of this. There's a new way to actually have a spectrum over of thought, or actually to have dominance of their own thought. Through some mindsets don't. I kind of feel like I want to know. I do want to do in my life, but there's mindsets that kind of can get into the impulse of their own, where if they don't even know what they want to do with their life, but then some other brain hacker knows what they want to do with that person, and then it just so it's kind of it's interesting how technology changes, because then it's like your interest is my interest became someone else's fascination, and then they just went everywhere with my own interests. Like, whoa, you just we kind of went there. Just it was wild world with your own world. But yeah, so